My name is Olivia Parker. I'm 32 years old, and last month my own mother forgot to book me a room on our family trip. The words lingered in my mind as I rolled my suitcase across the polished marble floor of Sapphire Bay Resort. Luxury stretched in every direction. The glinting lobby, the concierge desk lined with fresh orchids, the ocean breeze drifting through floor-to-ceiling windows. But for the first time in years, luxury felt meaningless. I had spent months looking forward to this trip. My parents promised it would be a family vacation like no other. My older sister Maddie had posted teaser photos on Instagram, tagging everyone except me. And now, here I was, standing in the lobby with my name nowhere on the reservation list. Sapphire Bay Resort San Diego was packed with sunseekers and weekend travelers. The lobby hummed with the gentle clink of glasses from the bar, soft jazz playing in the background. My parents, Carol and Tom, were perched in one corner, nursing cocktails, pretending not to notice me. Maddie leaned against the reception desk, phone in hand, Lily perched on her hip like a tiny crown jewel. The hotel clerk looked genuinely concerned as he typed my name into the computer. "I'm really sorry, ma'am. I don't see a reservation under Olivia Parker." I glanced at my parents, hoping for a hint of advocacy. Nothing. Carol's eyes flicked to mine for half a second before she returned to her conversation with Tom. The avoidance stung, but I wasn't ready for Maddie. Maddie tilted her head, smirk playing on her lips. "We only reserved rooms for real family, Olivia," she said, loud enough for the nearby guests to hear. "You make good money, you can figure it out, right?" There was a collective gasp from the lobby. A couple checking in muttered to each other. The clerk cleared his throat, shifting awkwardly. My stomach sank. Shock turned to embarrassment as I felt every eye on me, every whispered judgment amplifying my humiliation. I opened my mouth, but words felt weak. I wanted to shout, to scream, to demand justice. But I also knew that pleading would only give them more satisfaction. The phrase "real family" echoed in my head like a slap I hadn't been expecting. My parents stayed silent, guilt and avoidance battling behind their polite smiles. Maddie's cruelty was performative, a show for the audience she clearly considered herself the star of. Then, something inside me shifted. I straightened my shoulders and spoke slowly, deliberately. "Then I'll leave." The words felt like armor. I didn't beg. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I simply turned, picked up my suitcase, and walked out of the lobby with my head held high. My mother hissed my name, but I didn't look back. Outside, I caught a rideshare, the cool San Diego air hitting my face, a mix of relief and anger flooding me. I stared at the city lights reflecting on the water, my mind racing. Their little performance had failed to break me. I would not be humiliated for them to feel superior. Because what they didn't know was that one person in our family had just found out what they did to me. And he had the power to destroy their entire lifestyle with a single decision. Walking out of the lobby, suitcase in tow, I couldn't stop the memories from surfacing. This wasn't the first time my family had made me feel invisible. It was just the most public. My grandfather, Edward Collins, retired in Scottsdale, had been my first real champion. A self-made commercial real estate mogul, he wasn't flashy in the traditional sense. No yachts, no ostentatious cars, but he had a philosophy that stuck with me from the age of 12. Never let anyone hold money over your head. He'd opened my first custodial investment account before I hit middle school, and while most kids my age were worrying about prom dresses or video games, Grandpa Ed was teaching me about dividends and compound interest. "You don't ever want to need a check from someone who doesn't respect you, Olivia," he'd said once, leaning back in his leather chair, hands clasped. I didn't fully understand it at 12, but the words had quietly nested in my brain like seeds waiting to grow. Every time my parents tried to manipulate or guilt me, every time Maddie's social media persona overshadowed my own reality, I could hear him echoing in my head. And Maddie, my older sister, my family's golden child, the one who seemed to glide effortlessly through life with her perfectly curated Instagram feed. Maddie Parker Gray, she called herself, lifestyle and mom influencer. Pictures of her latte art, day-in-the-life vlogs, endless unboxings. Millions of followers, but if you looked past the aesthetics, the reality was stark. Her bank account often barely matched the image she projected. That's where the Collins Family Support Trust quietly stepped in. Tuition, car leases, mortgage payments, private school bills, all covered behind the scenes. My parents never boasted about it publicly. They simply justified it as, "She has a family. She needs the help more than you do." Meanwhile, my parents, Carol and Tom, cultivated their picture-perfect retirement image in their HOA neighborhood outside Austin. Social media showed afternoon coffees, cruise selfies, perfectly landscaped yards. Reality. The trust quietly kept the lights on, paid HOA dues, insurance, even cruise costs. Yet, they never considered me in need enough to warrant their attention or financial coverage. Growing up with this pattern wasn't subtle. Maddie got a new car at 16 while I took the bus to school. Maddie's cheer camp, college housing, extracurriculars, all funded, while I worked night shifts stocking shelves to keep my own life afloat. And every time I complained or hinted at unfairness, I'd hear the familiar refrain. You're the independent one, Olivia. You're strong. You don't need us. Translation, you're not worth the money. We'd rather spend it on your sister. The annual family trips had always been different. Grandpa Ed made it a point to pay for everything himself. Colorado cabins, Caribbean cruises. It wasn't about indulgence. It was about fairness. Money couldn't be used to exclude anyone. But this year, everything changed. Dad's been so generous, it's time we give him a break, Mom said with that serene smile she thought hid everything. They chose Sapphire Bay Resort, an outrageously expensive property in San Diego. Grandpa Ed. He was sitting this one out. I should have noticed the red flags. Mom never sent me a confirmation number. It's all under one booking. Don't worry, she said. Maddie made her jokes. Olivia's the rich tech girl. She should be in the presidential suite. Dad added his casual commentary. You make more than all of us. You'll survive resort prices. I assumed the worst-case scenario. Add a room at check-in, pay myself, move on. How naive, I didn't know it then. But while I was walking out of that lobby, my mom was already texting Grandpa Ed a watered-down version of the story, trying to get ahead of it. She just didn't realize the man she was talking to had built his entire life on reading people. Every hesitation, every flinch, every half-truth. He would see it all. And I had no idea the ripple from my humiliation was about to reach farther than I ever imagined. By the time I had tucked my suitcase into the rideshare, my phone had become a weapon pointed squarely at my family. Notifications pinged relentlessly. Missed calls, texts, voicemails. A digital explosion of panic. I almost didn't want to check. 5 minutes in, 10 missed calls. 10 minutes, 16. 15 minutes, 23 voicemails. By the time we hit the freeway, I had 56 missed calls. My driver glanced at me, eyebrows raised. Everything okay? I managed a tight smile. Yes, just family stuff. I scrolled through the texts, and the pattern of their manipulation was almost surgical. Phase 1. Fake concerned mom. Come back to the hotel. We can talk this out. Maddie. Seriously, Liv, you stormed out over a room. Mom again. We can probably get you a cot in Lily's room. Don't ruin the trip. Phase 2. Transactional. Maddie. Can you just come back and pay for it so we can relax, please? Phase 3. Gaslighting. Mom's voicemail, dripping with faux reason. You embarrassed us. You made a scene. We love you. We just assumed you'd handle your own room. You make more than all of us combined. Stop punishing us. Phase 4. Panic. Maddie. Grandpa is asking what happened. What did you tell him? Mom. Your grandfather is calling. Do not twist this. Dad. You don't get to run to your grandfather like a child. You are 32 years old. Handle this like an adult. It was chaos, a familiar mix of guilt, blame, and frantic damage control. But I had a secret weapon. Grandpa Ed. I scrolled past my mother's texts, past Maddie and Jason's frantic pings, and dialed his number directly. Second ring. He answered. Olivia. His voice calm, measured. The way it always was when he expected the truth. I recounted everything. No drama, no spin. Every detail. The front desk, the absence of a reservation, my parents perched at the bar, Maddie's words. Real family. I read the list of 56 missed calls for good measure. Every syllable landed with the precision I knew would matter. On the other end, he was quiet. Controlled breathing. Suppressed fury. Then slow, deliberate questions. And your mother said she assumed you would pay for your own room. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Is that what she called taking my support and using it to exclude you? His response was both reassuring and terrifying. You did exactly what you should have done. You removed yourself. You told the truth. The rest is my mess to clean up. Grandpa Ed's strategic mind was already moving. I'm going to call the hotel. I'm going to ask some questions. He gave instructions like a general issuing orders. You do not answer their calls. Go home, rest, go back to work. I will handle this. And then the reality check. The war started a long time ago when your mother and father decided one daughter would always be first and the other would always be fine. I closed the phone, stunned by the quiet authority in his voice. My mother's texts kept arriving, frantic and dismissive. Grandpa is being dramatic. Do not tell him some sob story. I ignored them. I didn't need to justify a thing. Later, the first email arrived, subject line bold and formal. Emergency family meeting tonight. Required. The opening line cut like a knife. We will be discussing the future of the Collins Family Support Trust and the definition of real family. For the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel like I was about to be judged. I closed my laptop, stood up, and walked through the airport metal detector. The chaos of my family's texts, the panic, the gaslighting, it all seemed distant now. For the first time I felt like the one holding the power. Grandpa Ed was in motion, and I was no longer the target. The Zoom meeting started exactly at 8 p.m. I was home in my Seattle condo, flight fatigued, still in sweatpants, trying to breathe normally as my laptop pinged with the incoming call. The grid filled with faces I hadn't wanted to see. My family, and Grandpa Ed, calm as ever, waiting like a judge in a leather chair in his Scottsdale office. Grandpa's presence was intimidating in the best way. Glasses perched low, expression set, authority radiating from every pixel. Carol's red eyes made it clear she'd been crying. Tom's jaw was painfully tight, like he'd been clenching it for hours. Maddie and Jason lounged in matching resort robes from Sapphire Bay, darkly comic in their casual confidence. And then there was me, tired, tense, eyes lingering on the screen, silently bracing for what was about to unfold. Grandpa opened, voice calm but weighted. Thank you all for joining. We won't be here long, but we will be honest. That is non-negotiable. He shared that the general manager at Sapphire Bay was very helpful, and that long-time clients received courtesy considerations, but then dropped the bombshell. I have lobby security footage. The video played. Olivia at the front desk, clerk typing, her expression moving from confusion to shock. Parents at the bar, glancing over, deliberately turning away. Maddie walking up, smirk curling as she said, "We only reserved rooms for real family." My frozen moment before turning and leaving. Audio unclear, but the truth unmistakable. The silence that followed was almost deafening. Maddie stopped fidgeting. Mom swallowed hard. Grandpa's eyes were colder than I'd ever seen. "Carol, Tom, Madison," he said, "would you like to explain this misunderstanding to me?" Mom's voice trembled. "These cameras don't catch everything. We were joking." "Do not insult me," Grandpa snapped. "I spent 40 years negotiating with people who lied for a living. I know exactly what I'm looking at. You humiliated your daughter in public while sitting 3 feet away doing nothing. You built this trip on my money and used it to exclude the one person in this family who doesn't treat me as a walking ATM. Dad sputtered. "We just assumed she'd pay for her own room. She makes 6 figures. We're not made of money. We thought you'd appreciate us not asking to cover another expense." Grandpa's glare cut through the screen. "You thought I'd appreciate you weaponizing my generosity to cut Olivia out. You thought wrong." Maddie's voice cracked, pleading. "Grandpa, I was kidding. It was a bad joke. I didn't think she'd actually leave." "The joke," Grandpa said slowly, "wasn't that you excluded her. The joke was that you believed there would be no consequences." Then came the nuclear option. He held up a thick folder. The Collins Family Support Trust. This fund was designed as a safety net, not a weapon. Years of schooling, houses, small businesses, medical bills, golf memberships, resort trips, everything covered responsibly. And yet you used it to create a hierarchy in your family. As of this afternoon, I have signed an amendment resigning myself as sole trustee. From this moment forward, Olivia is the primary trustee. She has full authority over distributions from this trust to any of you. Mom's face went white. Dad's disbelief was audible. "You can't do that. We depend on that money. HOA, my prescriptions, the cruise deposit, Lily's school." Grandpa's logic landed like a hammer. "You depend on it. Olivia does not. That is exactly why she should manage it. She lives within her means and treats people with respect without expecting money to paper over bad choices." Maddie tried pleading again. "Grandpa, brand deals fell through. Jason's commission. And instead of tightening your belt, you filmed unboxings and let my money paper over the cracks. Then you used my trip to cut your sister out. You do not get to play the victim here." Grandpa turned to me. Olivia, full access to trust statements and distribution controls. Attorney will walk through every step. You are not obligated to give anyone a single cent. I felt a pang of internal conflict. Grandpa, I don't want revenge. This isn't revenge, he said. It's accountability. What you choose to do with that is up to you. Mom tried the old script. Olivia, sweetie, don't let him put you in the middle. We've always done our best. You can just keep things as they are, right? I shook my head. No, this isn't working. Starting now, no automatic distributions. No more paying for cruises, private school, HOA fees, golf memberships. Support comes only when truly necessary and after basic respect is shown. Until then, everything is frozen. Maddie whispered. You can't do that. I added firmly. Lily is not the problem. You are. You don't get to hide behind her while using Grandpa's money to pretend your life is something it's not. Grandpa's final word. Then maybe you should have thought of that before deciding one of my granddaughters was less real than the other. One by one, their faces disappeared from the screen. I sat back in my Seattle condo, laptop glow washing over me. I closed it, ordered a pizza, and sank into my couch. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't scrambling to fix their mess. I was the one holding the plug. I didn't have to keep their lights on anymore. 2 weeks later, my life in Seattle felt ordinary. Almost deceptively so. Same gray mornings, coffee in hand, light rail into the office, same endless meetings about product launch timelines and messaging. Only difference. My laptop had a new permanent tab open. Grandpa's trust dashboard. Each cancelled autotransfer felt like a small, clean cutaway from an old infected wound, a quiet assertion of boundaries I had never allowed myself before. Meanwhile, Maddie's perfectly curated world started to crumble. Her social media, once a ceaseless parade of coffee selfies, school drop-offs, staged brunches, and get-ready-with-me videos began to slow. Day 5 after the freeze. Posts slowed. Day 10. Content stopped entirely. Her last video, a weekend resort recap, conspicuously omitted me. The comment sections mirrored the unraveling. OMG, living my dream shifted to, you've been quiet, everything okay? And then, how do you afford all this on influencer money? Maddie's response. Silence. Even Jason, her husband, got the wake-up call. I hadn't heard from him in years until his text arrived, direct and stripped of pretense. He just realized how much of their lives had floated on the Collins Family Support Trust. Brand deals, luxury cars, private school tuition. They'd all been papered over by Grandpa's generosity. Consequences hit fast. Lily was pulled from her private school. The leased SUV returned early. The house put up for sale to cover missed payments. His message ended with something surprising. I don't blame you, Olivia. I just wish your in-laws had been honest with me instead of using your grandfather's generosity as a shortcut. I sat with that message for a long time. When I replied, I was honest but measured. I'm sorry they're hurting. I won't turn the tap back on just for appearances. He didn't ask me to. That small acknowledgement of understanding was a relief. The fractures in my parents were quieter, slower, but unmistakable. Dad sent an email titled Update, listing numbers for HOA dues, prescriptions, property tax bills. The cruise company had cancelled their reservation but kept the deposit. Buried among the details was a small admission. We're realizing now how much of what we called our retirement was actually your grandfather's safety net. For what it's worth, what happened at the resort was wrong. I should have stopped it. I'm sorry. I thanked him. Not to fix, not to restore old patterns, but with a gentle firmness. The trust remained for emergencies, for needs, not to prop up an unsustainable lifestyle. No golf memberships, no cruise packages. Dad didn't argue. Mom's messages were harder to parse. Half-finished sentences, I never meant, and you have to understand, led to the buried truth. I thought if I kept Maddie happy, I could keep the family together. I didn't see that I was pushing you out every time I did it. I read her words 3 times, feeling a loosened weight in my chest. But not enough to forget the lobby, the sting of real family, or the way she had looked away when it mattered most. And in the midst of this family chaos, life outside of it continued. And in a surprising twist, my professional life surged forward. My boss pulled me into a one-on-one executive team. Requests came in for me to lead the new product launch, complete with bonus and a clear path to promotion. The independence my parents had long used as an excuse to give me less was now the exact foundation allowing me to remain steady while their world shook. Late that evening, an email pinged from Grandpa. Simple subject line, check-in. His message. I've reviewed everything with the attorney. You're doing exactly what I hoped you would do. Not cruel, not soft, just fair. They are all angry now, but sometimes anger is just grief for a fantasy dying. Let it die. What grows after will be more honest. I closed my laptop, made myself tea, and sat by the window, watching the rain streak down the glass. For once, the weight of their choices wasn't mine to carry. My family was finally feeling the consequences of decisions they'd made for years. And I, for the first time, could just be 3 months later. I barely recognized my own reflection, not in the mirror but in my life. Professionally, everything had shifted. The product launch I'd led exceeded targets, the team executed flawlessly, and on a Friday afternoon I was promoted to director. New title, raise, more stock options. For the first time, I realized I could walk away in a decade entirely secure. I didn't need anyone's trust, anyone's approval, anyone's permission. That realization hit harder than the promotion itself. Meanwhile, Maddie and Jason were in the slow, humbling process of rebuilding. Their house in the manicured neighborhood was sold. They moved to a smaller rental on the edge of town. Lily was in a public school now, a playground without sponsorship logos. The luxury SUV was gone. Jason sent me a picture of their used crossover with a shrug. It runs. That's enough. Maddie's social media transformed too. The awkward silence of the first weeks gave way to a slow, authentic shift. Glossy unboxings became grocery haul videos with store brands. Effortless brunches were replaced by talking through real budgets. In one quiet caption, she admitted, I spent years pretending I had it all together. I didn't. I hurt people I love trying to keep that illusion alive. She never tagged me, never mentioned the resort or the trust. We both knew exactly which illusion had broken and why parents' acceptance was slower but unmistakable. Panic emails about one-time exceptions and temporary help came and went. My answer was consistent. The trust was for emergencies, for needs, not to maintain a lifestyle they couldn't afford. Then one day, a handwritten letter arrived from Mom. Old-fashioned stationery, the kind saved for holiday cards. Her words spilled across the page, admitting things she had never said aloud. I spent most of my adult life trying to keep Maddie from falling apart and used you as the counterweight, the one I didn't have to worry about. I told myself you were strong enough to be left out. I never stopped to ask if you wanted to be. In smaller, shakier letters, she added, you were right to walk out of that lobby. I'm sorry I made you feel like you weren't part of your own family. I didn't cry. I sat with the paper for a long time, feeling every word land in places that were still sore, still cautious. But lighter. Dad called a week later, just to share about a community financial literacy workshop he was teaching. For the first time, money could be discussed without defensiveness, without performance, without pretending it was endless. As trustee, my decisions were deliberate. Lily's therapy when questions about the move or bills were hard. Approved. Mom's uncovered medical expenses. Approved. Cruises and golf club memberships. Denied. I didn't do it to be cruel. I did it because finally, the trust was doing what Grandpa had intended. Supporting real needs, not enabling fantasy. One evening, I sat on Grandpa's patio as the Scottsdale sky turned an impossible pink. I told him about the promotion, the letters, the honest updates from family chats. No performative vacation photos, no staged illusions. He smiled quietly, reflecting. I wasn't sure what would hurt them more, losing the money or losing the version of themselves they could only afford with it. I'm just glad you didn't lose yourself trying to keep that version alive. It wasn't the front desk, not the Zoom tribunal, not even the frozen trust that mattered most. It was the knowledge that I drew a line, and survived it. We still see each other, cautiously at first, then more naturally. Arguments, apologies, rebuilding. The family is smaller in some ways but more real. I maintain boundaries, keep the trust pointed at needs, not fantasies. Thinking back to the lobby, to real family thrown as a joke, I feel no sharp burn anymore. Gratitude has replaced it. They finally said out loud what was true all along, and in doing so, gave me permission to define what real family means. If you've ever been made to feel like the extra chair at your own family's table, remember this. You are allowed to leave the resort lobby. You are allowed to put your phone on Do Not Disturb. You are allowed to build a life where the only people who get a reservation are the ones who treat you like part of the real family, whether you're picking up the check or not.